inclusivity is like that's a really loaded word. It means a lot of things to a lot of different people, and I don't think that Boys Club has like figured it out. And by any means, we're very good at attracting like a certain type of person, like a certain type of woman, frankly, to our community. But like ideally, I'd love to see like an infinite number of like forked boys clubs that are all relevant for different communities that all speak to different types of people. That would be incredible to see. And I honestly think that that's like sort of what's needed in order to have like a truly inclusive ecosystem.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Okcoin Live. We are so excited to have you here with us today and so excited to introduce our guest today. So, I'm Devika. I'm leading listings on the Okcoin side for the US, EU, and Singapore. And today we have a new co host from Okcoin. We're really, really excited to have him here. So, we have Shreyas. Shreyas, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shreyas, and I am the product marketing manager at Okcoin. And I'm really excited to have this episode. I've always seen these Okcoin lives like on YouTube. So being on this side of the panel is like super exciting. So let's get started.
Yeah, we love that you're on. We love giving people a chance to rotate, host, and talk about what they're passionate about. So, let's talk about our guest today. We're really, really excited to have Deana on OK Going Live from the Boys Club. This is a project that Shreyas holds very close to his heart, and he's been kind of participating in the community. And again, so I'll let Shreyas really tell us about what is Boys Club, and what are we talking about today.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to just talk about Deana for a second. So Deana is one of the co-founders of Boys Club, and Boys Club is a social community, social club and community designed to welcome women and non-binary individuals in Web3. They've done a lot. Like they were founded in like November 2021 is when I first time heard about it, and since then they got into Seed Club. They got like 7 different functioning DAO guilds. They found a podcast, sold out a merch line, roadmaps, NFT. I mean, I don't know. How do you even do that much in like 6 months? I'm like really excited to hear about the story and just understand like how the whole community works and where it's going.
Thanks. I'm so excited to be here. And I'm so excited you're a part of Boys Club. That's so awesome to see. Yeah, for the record, we center female and non-binary voices, but we're really open to anyone. So I'm excited to have met you and to have this chat.
So, Dina, just to start off with, something we ask most of our guests is, how did you get into crypto? And then, once you got into crypto, what made you think about starting Boys Club?
Yeah, so I got into crypto 2017, so last big bull run. I got in. Basically, it was just like gambling. I was just like trading all coins, but doing it really badly. I didn't make any money. I just like lost a bunch of money. But I was attracted to it, yeah, just for the price action that was happening at the time. And once I was there, really just fell in love with the technology and fell down the rabbit hole as people do, and got really excited about how I felt like, at the time it was crypto, it wasn't Web3, but like blockchain technology, what that could do for things that I cared about, like financial inclusion and creating, wealth generating opportunities for people who had sort of been left behind by the traditional financial system. So that was really sort of what got me in, and then what kept me in. And then in 2018, I founded a company called Gracias, raised some money and founded a startup that was that built what was functionally like a Bitcoin wallet, but it was designed very intentionally for teenage girls, really to provide them with, it was really fun to give them sort of a safe and well lit place to sort of have their first experiences with Bitcoin or with crypto. There was some education that was layered into that, and I did Gracias for a couple of years. Couldn't find any meaning. I couldn't raise my second round. Couldn't find any meaningful traction. But that just to say that I've been thinking about sort of like this idea of sort of women and crypto, Web3 for a while now. And I'd say that in 2021 and 2022, the landscape totally changed, and Boys Club took off as a result of really just that that timing. And so that's sort of my journey so far.
Sweet. Before we go on, I just want to ask you. So while I was listening on to your podcast, it's this Boys Club podcast, right?
Yeah.
You do a feelings check-in. So Deana, how are you
Yeah.
feeling?
Oh, I love a feelings check-in. I love that. I'm feeling great. So I was at ECC last week, which was actually too much fun. Like my body's like, we need to we need to slow it down. Too much red wine and baguettes. But yeah, it was really great to see. I don't know, just going to sort of conferences in a bear market. You really sort of see the dedication of the community to build and to build together. And I find that really yeah, just really sort of moving and fulfilling and really energizing, to continue to, to use that to continue to keep building into with Boys Club, because sometimes, you're like, man, I mean, you guys get it, tough market, right? It's hard, it can be discouraging, but sort of coming together IRL does make it a little bit easier.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm so jealous that you got to be there. I'm currently in a hotel room in Peru. Super random. I have no connection to Peru, but I'm sitting here to get my US visa so I can go to conferences next month.
Wow. What
And
are you going to where are you going?
I think, I was planning on, well, no plans yet because depends on how long it takes to get my
Sure.
visa
Yeah.
back and how long I'm in Peru eating all the good food here, crying myself to sleep over some ceviche. Um,
Oh no.
no, that was just a joke. I love um no, I think I think I'm planning on being I'm planning on being at in Amsterdam, I think next month, and then
Mhm.
Lisbon in November
Nice.
if I can swing it.
Nice.
But those
Nice.
are the big ones. So I'm here
Nice.
really, feeling very heartened to hear about your stories of Paris.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel very compelled to come back and engage with the community
Totally.
as soon as I can.
Totally.
Jess, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I did nothing this weekend. Well, maybe I attended one wedding, which was a ballroom wedding. So like all my
Oh, that's
friends
something.
are ballroom dancers. That's how I met my girlfriend.
Oh,
So it was a lot of fun. And then Sunday I did nothing. I just slept all day.
nice.
Much ballrooming.
Yep.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's get back to talking about Boys Club and talking about what kind of brings us all together here. So I think we saw that your website says instead of eat, pray, love. I love that you say eighth, pray, crypto. So lessons for crypto curious, bear market babes, or in crypto comfortable. Um, so sorry, let's do that part again. Um, so your website says instead of eat, pray, love, it says eat, pray, crypto. I love that. Can you tell us a little bit more about where did you come up with that slogan and that kind of idea? And do you have any lessons for people who are trying to get into crypto and are kind of new to crypto, especially in the communities that Boys Club is tailoring itself to?
Yeah. I guess I'd say first of all, like humor and not taking ourselves too seriously are sort of foundational core values at Boys Club, and you see that reflected across the site certainly, but also our like totally unhinged Instagram account and Twitter account. Like we're having a good time together, and so that's sort of that's why you see a lot of that type of language. But yeah, we're sort of just like, if we're not having a good time here, what are we doing? So that's like sort of underpins everything that we do. And I think that honestly, that uh, has been really useful in helping to attract a certain type of person who has previously felt maybe a little bit alienated or didn't quite know where their place was in crypto or Web3. I think like some of the sort of signaling that we do around language shows people that like this is totally a welcoming environment. Like no questions too dumb. Like we're sort of accepting everyone with open arms. So that's been a big part of it. And then I think for people who are just starting out, um, yeah, I mean, one thing that we we do at Boys Club is that like we try not to like evangelize too much around crypto or Web3. We try not to like be in the position where we're convincing people to get into crypto or to get into Web3. Like that's always sort of like it's a little bit of like a losing game as far as I'm concerned, and like just not like really where we naturally like to be. Instead, what we prefer to do is like when someone is a little bit curious to try and sort of just nurture that curiosity. And we do that by trying to give a really wide view of what's possible in Web3. So for some people, like they're interested in the money and the finance aspect to it. And so like for them, seeing stuff about DeFi and like, different altcoins and whatever it may be, like that's going to be like investing is going to be what sort of juices them. But for other people who are more into like art or music, like there's other sort of places where you can sort of see different opportunities for yourself in Web3. And so at Boys Club, we just like try and give a really wide view of like of that whole landscape, and so that people then naturally find the thing that they're sort of interested in or whatever. So I guess for people starting out, like I mean, I would really recommend like finding a community of people that speaks to you and that you feel safe asking the questions. Like I think that's also been a big part of it, is like there's so many questions that come up as you're just learning, and to be able to have a friend or a space where you can ask that without feeling like dumb is really helpful. So
Yeah, so I really like that, like especially the first word that you said, like not taking yourself too seriously. And I feel that's like so perfectly like ingrained in your name. So let's address the boys in the room. Like, what is this name and how did it come about?
yeah, I mean that's exactly right. Like we're just like, what's the most ridiculous name that we could have, and then we found it. So that's basically that.
So I love, I mean, so is the idea then, that boys are not the only boys in the room? Like everybody else can have a space on the table too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like just sort of sending up like the old boys club, and saying, yeah, we're sort of creating our own space, and yeah, taking that name with us, as sort of, yeah, just a joke, really.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, I went to the boys club event in Palm Beach and I walked in
Oh,
and
amazing! Oh,
I
incredible!
was so confused because there were so many women there and I hadn't, I hadn't really looked into it back then and I was so confused because there was like boys club, like team, like let's take a photo.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
And I was like, wait, I think I'm missing something here.
That is hilarious. That is hilarious. I love that. Well, I'm so glad you came to that event. That was a really fun party.
Yeah, it was really fun, and I mean, Palm Beach is so gorgeous, right? You can't really go wrong.
Yeah.
But I guess one thing I wanted to ask you is something that I think I really struggled with when I started getting into crypto, and I think maybe even now is that I find it hard to find the community that I need, right, or that I
Mm.
can have to ask these questions that you're saying I should be asking. So how do you recommend for somebody who's getting into crypto they find that community for themselves, and how would they find Boys Club if they were looking for it?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and something that, yeah, I think that we think a lot about. I mean, when I was first getting started, I was like sort of lurking on crypto Twitter, but that would not be something that I recommend for someone who's just starting out because of all the reasons. But that was sort of how, yeah, I got started. I mean, we're trying to, at Boys Club, we're trying to sort of expand the reach of our audience through things like podcasts and through sort of non traditional crypto social media channels like TikTok or Instagram. So that we're sort of in the spaces where people are already, who maybe be or become interested in Boys Club. So yeah, for us, like podcasts and newsletters is sort of how we're gaming our reach. But I think for people who are interested, honestly, I would listen to the podcasts. I would watch Okcoin Live. I would check out Bankless podcasts. They have a ton. There's a whole bunch of podcasts within the sort of Bankless ecosystem that are great. We have the Boys Club podcast, which is fun. But yeah, there's so many. I'm just sort of like an auditory listener or sort of learner, so it's always useful for me. But yeah, unfortunately, there's no like really foolproof discovery method. There's also crypto talk if you're a TikTok person that you
I
can.
love I love TikTok.
Your talk is fun. So help me understand like the journey. Is first thing, is the community just the Discord channel, or is it also
Yeah.
everything else? And how's the onboarding journey look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we sort of make the distinction between community and audience, and that's an important distinction for us, in a number of different ways. But yeah, the community is basically what we think of when we think of, certainly the Discord and events. So that's really sort of our nucleus of people who are um, really like in Boys Club. Like they've gone through the application process to get the invitation for the Discord, or they've like gone to the lengths of like coming out to an IRL event, which in our opinion is like really valuable for people to do, and we like really like sort of appreciate that as a community. So yeah, that's who we consider sort of in Boys Club. And then there's the broader audience of people who sort of follow us on Twitter and get the newsletter, listen to the podcast, or are on various sort of broader reach channels. And yeah, I mean, I think for us, like the onboarding process looks a little bit different depending on sort of your level of maturity in Web3 or crypto, right? For people who are there's an application for anyone who's coming into the Discord. For people who are brand new, then once they're in Discord, there's an invitation to do something called Wingman, which is basically when you get paired up with someone who's like a pro in the space for some like office hours. And we also have sort of another set of office hours. So there's a lot of sort of resources and support that you can get if you want to, as someone who's totally green coming into the space, who sort of needs that like hand. But then there's people who come into Boys Club that are like really just using it for networking, or to look for like a job in crypto. And for those folks, like those resources are sort of embedded in the Discord. We actually have a lot of people who come to us for job support, either sort of pivoting into a new career in Web3 or crypto, or yeah, sort of leveling up in their existing crypto or Web3 career. And we have a lot of resources for people who are looking for new roles.
I just want to say
Actually,
I love the term wingman. Like that's fantastic. Rather
Thanks.
than a mentee or like an onboarding
Thank
buddy
you.
is the usual term.
yeah, and I was gonna say that I actually personally know somebody who I think is in Boys Club and wanted to pivot from a career in like traditional tech to crypto, and now has an incredible chief of staff role. So I think
Love that.
Boys Club was definitely a community for her, and really helped her get the job that she really wanted. So
I love that.
that's awesome.
That's great to
Um,
hear.
so I guess I have another question that kind of talking about like the inclusivity of these platforms and a Boys Club. When we're talking about even getting an invite to the Discord or getting an invite to the IRL events,
Yeah.
do you think again, that what is the trade-off between making sure somebody really wants to be a part of the community and will be active and engaged versus, overwhelming somebody or making someone feel like they need to do too much to be part of this community, and it's also shut it off to them, even if it's not just for men, it might be for people of their kind of community, but it's not for them. So how do you
Totally.
balance that?
Yeah. I mean, I think that there is a lot of tension in sort of this idea of a gated community in Web3, or even a token gated community, which ours isn't token gated. Anyone can apply and join. And sort of this idea, the tension between that and inclusivity, right? Because it's by definition, it's exclusive. So I think for us, like we made a very deliberate design decision to not token gate the Discord yet, both because we didn't want to sort of extract that value from our community. It didn't feel right to ask. Well, I'll just leave it at that. And then the second piece is we really want to be intentional that like people who don't even have wallets set up still are welcome in Boys Club, and they're still like that still is a space for them. So to ask someone who is coming in totally green and doesn't even have their first like MetaMask or even Coinbase account or whatever it is, like, or okay, like they're coming in totally fresh. We want to still give them a space. So that's another reason why we didn't token gate. But still, like I think something like 40% of the users in our Discord are first time Discord users. Like, so
Wow.
they're really new to this space. And that's something like, yeah, just how we balance like where we convene as a community versus like where people are naturally. And yeah, it's not something that I don't think Discord's perfect, I guess is what I'm trying to say, but it's right for right now. And yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but happy to expand on that.
Yeah, I think it answers it. I think to your point, like I don't think there's any perfect mediums right now, and even with technologies like blockchain that's supposed to be inclusive, and it is inclusive, and definitely more inclusive than traditional technology and traditional finance. I think there's still ways to go, and I think there's still ways to improve. And what I love is that, you're actively thinking about it, and looking to find solutions that make sense and that really bring more people to the platform versus token getting it, for example.
Yeah. Yeah, inclusivity is like that's a really loaded word. It means a lot of things to a lot of different people, and I don't think that Boys Club has like figured it out. And by any means, we're very good at attracting like a certain type of person, like a certain type of woman, frankly, to our community. But like ideally, I'd love to see like an infinite number of like forked boys clubs that are all relevant for different communities that all speak to different types of people. That would be incredible to see. And I honestly think that that's like sort of what's needed in order to have like a truly inclusive ecosystem. So yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
so help me understand this a little better. Like I get you just described the onboarding process. So I
Yeah.
come into the Discord, I get a wingman. Then what do I do? Like where like how do ideas come to life? What do I do in this Discord?
Yeah, totally. So we're really being intentional about um, sort of nurturing a community of women who are and people who are interested in building together in Web3. So especially in this bear market, we're like, okay, we're here. What do we do now? Yeah, right. I've
Right.
arrived. I've
What do I do now?
onboarded. I get it now. I've been listening to the podcast. I've been watching the whatever, reading the newsletter. Like I'm here, and like now what? And so for some people, that's like get a job, and we can help you get a job, and that's great. And then for other people, they're like, okay, I'm like ready to roll up my sleeve and start like figuring out, I don't know, start building something. And so that's sort of the well, we do a couple of things in that. We do have the DAO, which I'll talk about in a second, which is really a critical piece of how people sort of can graduate in their experience in Boys Club into the DAO. But we also have things like we just did on Friday our first what we call high pitched, which is a pitch workshop for founders and builders. So we basically like get a bunch of people in our community to come hang out. We get a bunch of founders and builders who have startups and who are maybe raising money or are like for whatever reason trying to sort of like hone their pitch. And they come into Boys Club and they pitch, and we basically like help them sort of workshop their storytelling, give them feedback, and we do that in community. So that's one way sort of that we're helping to sort of nurture the founders. We had 5 incredible startups that we worked on their pitches with last week. And then there's the DAO. So the way that we've structured the DAO is through what we're calling minimum viable community. So really sort of borrowing from the language of the lean startup and minimum viable product, using that same sort of approach, which with the DAO, in that like we're going to start small. We're going to start really small. We're going to test out what the DAO processes and systems look like in Boys Club and see if it's right, see how people vote on proposals, see if people vote on proposals, see how much or how little governance we're like is healthy to distribute in an organization like ours. And so that's sort of the process that we're in right now. Is like we're in season 1 of our DAO, and it's small, but we're learning a lot about like what makes sense, because we're not like a protocol that's just sort of spinning, right, and like dumping money into a multi-sig wallet. Like that's not how Boys Club works. Like we're right now, it's very sort of services heavy. We have sponsorships and we have like, so, and it's brand centric. And so with a brand centric DAO, like the sort of considerations about how it works and how it operates is different than with a protocol. And so that's like just sort of what we're on the forefront of and testing right now.
That's really interesting. So I guess, when you're thinking of, you talked about the DAO and the protocol, and, we also use, pretty crypto native language like forks, which I love. For our listeners who might not be as familiar with this terminology, could you tell them, what is a fork? What is a DAO, and, what is exactly a protocol, and how is it different?
Yeah. So a DAO is it stands for decentralized autonomous organization. But you can sort of just think of it as like, I mean, some people call it like a Discord with a shared bank account. That's one way to think about it. You could also think about it as like it's just sort of it's a really seamless and easy way to organize a lot of distributed and distributed both geographically people across the world to all collaborate on a project with a shared mission or shared vision or shared goals. And so you really can just think of a DAO as like it's an alternative to like an LLC or a C corp. It's just like a container for an organization or for a business. It's just that this container is legal. First of all, it's outside of the realms of legal structure. Though Wyoming, various states are doing efforts to recognize DAOs, but it's just a very Web3 native way of doing that, and it uses sort of the unique mechanisms of Web3 to run. So whether it's tokens, whether whether that be fungible or non-fungible, and
Governance.
sort of governance, and sort of smart contracts to determine and enforce the rules of the organization. So that's like, it's very complicated. Like I didn't really get what a DAO was until I heard it like 10 times. And then I really didn't understand a DAO until I started one. And so I probably butchered that definition, but it's basically just like a way to organize a bunch of people and to share in sort of the upside and to share in the governance of an organization. And for us, that's Boys Club. So we're sharing in how decisions are made, and we're sharing in sort of the ownership of what Boys Club is. And yeah, it's sort of a Web3 native tool that, or rather, it's a tool that with Web3 lets you do that really easily. So I don't know. That was sort of a real roundabout definition, but hopefully that tracks for one person who's listening.
Help me understand that a little bit more. Like, at least from traditional, like most DAOs that I'm used to, at least have some kind of a token in
Yeah.
place, but Boys Club does not. So
It
how
does
do you
not.
make decisions? How do you make governance
Yeah.
happen in the
So
community?
totally. That's one of the reasons why we wanted to do an MVC, is to sort of test that out. We don't have token yet. You're right in noting that. We do basically like off-chain voting with sort of the smaller subset of people that we recognized as either DAO, contributors to the Boys Club DAO or guild leads. Those are sort of the 40 odd people who are currently in the DAO. So we have sort of an eye on like who can and cannot vote, and it's small enough that we can sort of keep tabs in a off-chain way to be able to run it without having a token. But that's a really good question. Most do, and yeah, we intend to at some stage for governance, but at this point in time are able to do it in a more lightweight fashion, which lets us test some stuff.
So, something that we love at Okcoin Live is finding some alpha. So, when you say there's no token yet, is this some opportunity for our users to have some alpha? Should they be getting in at the right time, or is there anything they can be doing to get that alpha?
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I love a bit of Boys Club Alpha. There will be definitely a token at some point. I'd say that it's definitely something that we're working towards. But yeah, we'll wait till market conditions are favorable for us to do that. And yeah, I mean, I think that we're running a bunch of experiments in the next couple of months around different token formats, NFT formats. That we did one earlier this year around sort of, yeah, we did an NFT drop earlier this year, and we'll do another one. And like I'd say that probably getting into the universe of our NFT as either as a holder or whatever is probably the easiest way to then be kept abreast of any sort of future token moment that happens for us.
So tell me about this NFT collection, because Okcoin is also going to launch an NFT marketplace.
Oh,
So
cool.
we'd be
Awesome.
very interested in learning more about this NFT that you already launched, and then maybe any alpha and one that's coming up.
I love that. That's so cool. I'm excited for your NFT marketplace. That's awesome. We did, I think it was a couple months ago, we released 2 NFTs, really, again, as an experiment. So part of like another sort of foundational principle for Boys Club is like just sort of build in public, ship stuff, and experiment. Like we're sort of we're in this DAO, we're experimenting, we're building together. And so a big part of it is like, let's just like put stuff out into the world and sort of learn by doing. And so that's sort of how we approached this NFT project. It was like, we were like, man, I'd love to know what it was like to release an NFT. Like, we have no idea. And like some of the developers in our community were like, yeah, I'd love to learn too. And so, and then some of the designers were like, I'd really love to learn that. And I was like, all right, let's go. Let's do an NFT project. So that's sort of how it came together, which is just so fun. And yeah, we minted 2 different NFT tiers. One was a free mint to the people who had been sort of early in Boys Club to sort of acknowledge that they were first and that they were here early. And that was called the main character. And that was available to people in our community. And then the second tier was our Zaddy tier, which was basically what we sort of left out for open mint to the broader sort of Web3 community to say like, hey, if you support Boys Club, like make that commitment on chain and buy a Zaddy. And a bunch of people did. We sold out in a weekend, and it was really fun. And we learned a lot about what it means to launch an NFT project. And the great thing is that now we have those like whatever 2,500 people who have either a main character or Zaddy in their wallet. And so it makes things like, future tokens, other NFT drops, like a lot more interesting to start to coordinate once you start to get some folks on chain. So I'm really glad we did it. It was definitely a really interesting learning experience. And we also launched like, we had some fortuitous timing because we all know what's going on with the market. So
I mean, I'm just loving the names. I was like from Boys Club to Zaddy. I was like, where are you coming up with these names?
Yeah.
What's next?
Yeah, we had it was really funny, like the Zaddy thing. Like some people totally get it, and then others like we have like
You're like sending definition links.
yeah, and like or there's like some like boomer VC who's like really just so kind and wants to support and like is in Telegram. He's like, I think I bought a Zaddy. I don't know what a Zaddy is. And I'm like, great, you're in. That's awesome.
You're like, you don't need to know. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm like, it's okay. Yeah, you're here. But yeah, it was really fun.
That's awesome. So I guess what is a community ritual that you really enjoy, and that you'd love to continue even as the community expands.
Yeah, that's a great question. We have two, a couple different types of events, but 2 events in particular that are reoccurring that are really, really fun. One's called Define the Relationship, which is where we have sort of like a salon style.
Loving these names.
Names are fantastic. Someone must be a marketer in here.
Yeah. We have a couple of marketers in the group.
You need a new job.
So Define the Relationship is sort of a salon style where we have a fireside chat with someone and go really sort of deeper on a given topic. So we did something last night with Melanie from Pools. We talked about social tokens. Before that, we talked about sort of the culture. We had a sort of NFT thing, and so it's sort of like it's just an opportunity for us to have like a more intimate conversation and to just go a little bit deeper on a given topic in Web3 or crypto. Those are really fun. Those are really nice, and it's a great way to learn a lot if you're already sort of in the space and curious about just sort of expanding your horizons or learning more. And then we have our community events, which are just so fun, and that's more designed for beginners or like. It's actually best designed for people who like maybe are in Boys Club, but they have a friend who's curious. Mm-hmm. And that's a really easy event to bring them to because you have a panel and it's like sort of half party, half learning. So we do like a panel and we talk about like really sort of basics and go and really let the women or the people on the panel like talk about their careers and like talk about sort of what they're up to. And that sort of is great inspiration for the women or the people in the audience to sort of get inspired and sort of be like, oh, there's something here, and like just get some curiosity. And then also we open it up to like any question from the audience, and people text in questions, and it can be anything from like, what's the relationship between like the environment and Bitcoin to like anything as you can imagine. And we're sort of just like game to for whatever type of question comes up. And then the DJ comes on and we all have some cocktails and party and shots and have fun together and dance. And so yeah, that's a really, really, really fun sort of marquee event is our community event. And that's really what we started with. And then really everything grew from those community events.
So this community event, it's like a IRL event, right?
Yeah.
And tell me more about like because like so far we've talked about a lot on what's happening in Discord and virtual.
Yeah.
And like, tell me more about your in-person events, your IRL events, because I've heard those are super fun. I mean, Devika went to one.
So fun. Yeah, you guys should definitely try and come. And by the way, Zaddy holders do get into our IRL events or prioritize on the list.
BRB, looking up Zaddy NFT online.
Yeah.
I don't know what the people looking at my like security like okay.
Yeah, they're like, what is she doing? Yeah, so events is a big, again, this is like, we started in November. When Boys Club started, it was like, the first idea was, hey, I don't know what this, like, let's just throw dinner. Like, so actually what happened was my co-founder, Natasha, she was not into crypto, not into Web3, like just not interested at all. And I had always, in our friendship, I had always been like crypto, Web3. And she was like, great, I love that for you. It's like not my bag, but that's cool that you're into it. And then last year, as everything was sort of picking up with, Top Shot, like it just, the last bull run, it started to sort of, crypto and Web3 started to sort of move from this black box of finance and technology into culture, right? It started to come into art and music, and all of a sudden athletes were getting paid in Bitcoin. And it was just like sort of
mayors.
Yeah, totally. And it was like, it became relevant in a new way. And so she was sort of watching what was happening. I was like, oh, maybe there's something here. And I was like, yes, there's something here. I've been telling you for so long, like, just listen to me. Like, just listen to me 5 years ago. And then we sat down together and I was like, it's time for you to understand what's this world. And we sort of went through a couple decks. I took her through some DAOs. We went into Discord, crypto Twitter. And I was like, this is the world of it. And she was like, wow, okay, I get it. She was like crypto pilled or whatever. And we were like, man, we want to do that with other people. Like, it's so for a certain type of person, being in a social environment when you're being like sort of onboarded to crypto is so useful, because she was able to stop me and say, oh wait, what about this or that? And like, she also felt totally safe in our relationship to be able to ask whatever. And like, I had total time for her to ask anything. So we were like, man, we want to like recreate this social onboarding moment. And that was where the idea for the first event came from. And at first we were just like, we'll just throw a dinner party on Natasha's roof in Brooklyn and like invite a couple of like 10 of our friends and like do a version of this with them. And then I think we like put one tweet out on Twitter or something, and like it just exploded. And all of a sudden we were like 60 women, a panel, keynote, a loft in Chinatown, like falafels, catered thing. And so, and I think it was in that moment that we were like, oh, okay, wow, there's a lot of sort of pent up demand or unmet demand for having this type of space to learn about what's happening in this world. And so that really was the trigger for Boys Club from that first event. So
that's so exciting, and that's so inspiring, right? To know that your idea becomes reality and it's kind of blowing up in front of your faces. I'm sure it's super exciting to see.
Yeah.
So I think when you talk about the community and the need for these communities, what I'm really curious about is that there are a lot of different DAOs kind of coming up and different communities coming up that are focused on, say, women or non-binary communities. How would you think about the difference between them, and how would you think about the unique space that Boys Club takes on?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, there's a lot that are popping up, and there's room for all of them and 1,000 more. So like, we like welcome all of it, and it's just like there's only space for more groups trying to do what we're doing and across every different community. So we very much welcome it. I think for Boys Club, there is more of a sort of a focus on the intersection of Web3 and crypto and culture. So we think a lot about sort of yeah, more sort of that intersection than sort of strictly finance. There's some other groups that are like really focused on DeFi or really focused on various other verticals. So that's sort of one distinction. I think also, although we do have some curriculum and we definitely onboard people and we have wingman and we have like a lot of space for people who are coming in totally fresh, we don't do like cohort based learning, which like SheFi is great at. So there's other groups that do really good um, sort of structured learning modules that isn't really sort of our focus. We're much more interested in building together. So we part of our DAO is we have a product studio, and this is really sort of where the NFT project came from. Is that we are like, okay, we have some incredible talent that's in the Boys Club ecosystem. We have builders, we have marketers, we have whatever. How do we like leverage that to incubate ideas either from the Boys Club community, like people, founders come in, they have something, they want to build it, they don't know how, or ideas that we come up with ourselves to sort of bring into fruition. So that's I think that's a big sort of difference, is like really being intentional about being for people who want to build together. And then I think the other side of it is that we're very focused on media as well. So we're thinking a lot about like, what does a Web3 native or like decentralized media company look like? And right now that's being expressed through the sort of experiments that we're running in podcasting and newsletters is like DAO enabled content. Like, what's that mean? And so, yeah, we're sort of being intentional about shipping experiments in that sort of vein as well. So I think we attract people sort of for those reasons. And then we throw really fun parties. So there's that as well. And also I think networking. So we have like a really incredible group of people who are collected in the Discord. And like, I think that a lot of people see that as an opportunity to meet people and to sort of network as they would in Friends with Benefits or a group like that. So I think that that's actually a big sort of value add for the community and what makes us different as well.
Cool. So I did read you went through C Club. So can you tell
Yeah.
us a little bit more about like what C Club is? How did you get selected, and how was your experience in it?
Yeah. Big shout out to C Club. We loved it. C Club is, I guess they're technically like a DAO accelerator. They,
So a DAO for DAOs.
a DAO for DAOs. Yeah, it is. It really is a DAO for DAOs. And in C Club, we sort of learned, we came in sort of, it was really early days. We didn't really know what it was. We didn't really know what a DAO was, and learned like, okay, this is one way that we can approach tokenomics if and when we're ready to do a token. This is how communities like yours approach tokenomics, design their token, whatever it may be. This is, we learned a lot about sort of like entity design for DAO, C Corp, LLC, like so sort of the foundation of like what the DAO sort of sits in. We learned a lot about like how like community first, like really sort of how to nurture your community, like onboarding best practices. Like it was really invaluable. So to anyone who's considering starting a DAO, has a community that they may want to transition to become a DAO at some point, I highly recommend. It was really incredible, and also the network of other sort of communities in our cohort was phenomenal. There was like Mochi and now I'm blanking. Oh, Meta Label. I'm blanking on everyone's name now, of course, while the cameras are rolling. But yeah, it was really fun. Really highly recommend.
So, I think for me, what I'd love to know before we wrap up and we go into our okay, not okays is, I think for some listeners, it might still not be very clear, what the difference is between a DAO versus just like creating a community on Twitter, for example, or like an email panelist, right? So if I were looking to create a community or to be part of a community, maybe that's understanding crypto, maybe that's something else completely, what would you recommend in terms of choosing a DAO versus not choosing a DAO, and how would you go about it?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think that there's I'm like a DAO skeptic. I'm actually not convinced that like DAOs are it and are everything. I actually don't know that the DAO is the right structure for us in Boys Club. Like that's part of why we have this like MVC. We're experimenting. We're like we're testing it out because I actually don't know. I think one thing that I really like about the DAO format is that there is this sense of shared ownership. So right now there's a multi-sig out there, has a couple signers on it, and like the the funds that are in that multi-sig are like very much community owned and governed, right? Like there's proposals that are submitted for how that money is spent. By the way, that money was collected through the Zaddy sale. So that's sort of how we had our original capital raising event, was through
And
the
just
Zaddy
to
sale.
clarify, a multi-sig is...
Oh, a multi-sig is basically just a wallet that, thank you for asking. A multi-sig is just a wallet that has a couple different people that basically control it. So it's one really easy way to have for DAOs and for communities to have like a shared quote unquote bank account. It's not a bank account. It's just a wallet address that has some ETH or some stable coins or whatever in it. But yeah, because no single person controls it or owns it, or there's like less risks. But yeah, I think for us, like we were really, really interested in this idea of shared ownership. And that was something that we wanted to have from the start. If we just wanted to create a community and like run some events and do some, like, there would be no point in doing the DAO. It just adds a level of complexity that you don't necessarily need. And I think that there's a lot of communities out there that are doing incredible work that aren't DAOs, and like that's great. You definitely don't need to be, but like for us, we wanted to sort of build and grow and have that. So it was important for us to figure out a way to do that. And as far as we could tell, a DAO is the best way for us to do that so far.
So just listening to all these things, I feel like our users particularly are like all over the place with their crypto journey.
Yeah.
So if they want to get started with Boys Club, like where should they get started and what value do you think is it for each of them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would definitely start at the newsletter. So boysclub.vip. We registered that URL when, by the way, Boys Club was still a joke, and now we're stuck with .vip as our website domain, like till the end of time. But yeah, boysclub.vip and sign up for the newsletter. I think that that's a really great way to just get a feel for us and get a feel for our tone and what's the type of stuff we talk about. And if you're like vibing with the weekly newsletter, then apply to join the Discord and mention you heard me on Okcoin Live, and we'll expedite your application. And yeah, I'd say those are the best steps. Also, we have a podcast about where we invite on guests, but we also talk sort of building in public about like how our DAO is doing and things that we're learning and stuff like that. So if the DAO sort of stuff interests you, I'd also recommend the podcast as well, though the newsletter is a little bit more generalist.
Great. So, I think what we're hearing now is our next steps are, users who are interested and listeners who are interested to go follow everybody on Twitter. So, the Twitter is for Boys Club or Boys Club Crypto. And for Deana, it's me, Deana. For Shreyas, it's Shreyas Gavit 11. And for me, it's Mithal Devika. So follow us on Twitter, go join the newsletter for Boys Club, and just see if the community vibes with you. We feel pretty confident based on this conversation that it's going to really resonate with a lot of our listeners. And we're really excited about building this partnership together. So I guess at this
And
point...
actually, one more thing to add: if you're listening to this from Boys Club community and you're not following us on Twitter, then Okcoin, please follow us on Twitter.
Perfect. I love that.
Yeah, thank you. And I guess at this point we're going to move into our last section, which is the okay, not okay, which is my favorite part of the entire like Okcoin life. So we're going to give you something. We're going to give you a statement, and you have to tell us really quickly like okay or not okay. So
Okay.
I'll let Shreyas start us off with some of his good ones.
Okay, let's go. Boys and Boys Club.
Okay.
Pouring milk before cereal.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah, just like live and let live. If that's what gets you going, then that's great.
Okay, I have to tell that to my girlfriend because.
What about dipping your pizza in ranch?
Oh, I'm such a big ranch fan.
Really?
Yeah, so I'm definitely okay.
Where are you from, Deana?
I'm from New York, but
Okay.
I
Because
live...
I asked particularly because like dipping pizza in ranch is a big Midwest thing. I grew up in India. I went to Florida and then moved over to Michigan, and I'm like, what are you guys doing?
I know.
I went to eat pizza with my friends for the first time, and everybody was like, "Ah."
Yeah, I just want to say I have never dipped my piece in ranch when I lived in New York. I've since moved to Tennessee and I live in Nashville now. And so my ranch love has really come out of my new life as a Tennessean. And I'm like 10 out of 10, definitely ranch.
Interesting. I think I might have to say not okay on this one, but
Yeah.
I'm willing to
I also, I
Have you
respect
tried
that
it?
too.
Have you
I
tried it?
respect it.
try it. That's what I'm saying. I'm willing to try it, but my heart says not okay. Okay, what about not knowing anything about crypto?
Totally okay. 100% okay. Yeah, come to Boys Club if you
Join
don't.
Boys Club.
Fanny
Um,
packs.
Oh, okay. Also, I like to wear a fanny pack slung sideways. So if I said not okay, someone would find a picture of me on the internet and be like, "What are you talking about? You're a
We
hypocrite." So
actually gave out fanny packs as our swag during our New
I
York
love
party.
that. I love that. That's awesome. That's really cool.
Shrez, you want to give one last one and then we'll close it out?
Yeah, let's see. I don't know. You pick one. I'm kind of like
Okay.
all over the place.
This is a running okay coin live question. So this is going to be kind of similar to the ranch and pizza. It's kind of food related, but strawberries in your salad.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah, I'm okay with that. I mean, I'm okay. It's not my favorite thing, but I won't say no to it.
I like it. I think I'd say okay. Shrez, what about
Yeah,
you?
I like it. I tried it for the first time, I think at Panera. They have like a
nice.
salad with like strawberries and pecans, and I'm like, ah, that's good.
Yeah,
It's kind of an interesting taste, right? Like the sweet and salty.
yeah, I
Yeah.
can get down.
Awesome. So I think we're wrapping up with our okay and not okays. Thank you so much for joining us, Deana.
Totally my
And
pleasure.
thank you so much for co-hosting Shreyas. We're so excited to have you, and we hope to see you leading a lot of these in the future. So, really, really
Yeah.
excited about this. And everybody go subscribe to Boys Club. Go follow the Twitter, follow OKCoin on Twitter, and just keep listening to the podcast and keep listening to OKCoin Live.